Hey everybody, I'm Joshua.
And I'm Caleb.
I know I joke a lot in this show about the big words and super smart things my brother says, but guys, trust me, call up your guidance counselors because the next few minutes of your time should count for AP credit, even in college.
Oh, really now?
Yes, as you can see, all this fancy stuff is on the table because today we are talking about light.
Light and darkness. I know a scripture about that.
I knew you would.
1 John 1:5. This is a message we have heard from him and declare to you that God is light, and in him there is no darkness at all. James 1:17. Every good and perfect gift is from above and comes down from the Father of lights, with whom there is no variation or shadow of turning. Well, light and darkness, some people sometimes, they like to choose gray. They want to be neutral in life. They don't want to choose one side or the other. But you know, there's no neutrality in the spirit world. You're either in the light or the darkness. There's no Switzerland, basically, in the spirit world.
The Swiss do make amazing chocolate, but in the spiritual world, they get spit out of his mouth. And that's why Yeshua said that you had to be hot or cold, you had to be light or dark.
That's
you
true.
Can't find a middle road. And in the science of it, it's not even possible.
So what is light? Light is part of the large electromagnetic spectrum. It travels in wavelengths through space. It's a form of radiant energy. Very interestingly, light has color in it, doesn't? All the colors of a rainbow is in light.
We see white light and we think, oh, that's just white, but it is the amalgam of all colors of light. In fact, your ability to see color is actually a process in which the light hits an object, for instance, this apple, and you see red because this object absorbs all the other colors of light and reflects the red back to your eyeballs and for your brain to be able to detect what color this is.
So without light in the darkness, there is no color, for darkness is the absence of light. It's the same thing in our lives. Without that light, without Yeshua in our lives, that light, then we're in darkness, we're in sin, we're enslaved to the enemy.
And it's funny because when you look throughout the Bible, the indications of this science appear both in stories, just like it appears in our technology today. This is an old school film camera right here. Inside of cameras, they have something called an aperture, an iris. It's a small opening that opens and closes like this when you take a picture. And when it opens, it allows light to hit this negative before there was digital, and it exposes or burns that image onto that negative. That's how you see a picture. The same thing with your eyes. It has the little apertures inside of it. It opens and closes and allows you to see these images burned on it. When Moses went up to the top of Mount Sinai and he came down and his face shone with the Shekinah glory of God, it did so because God's very image, his light, was burned onto Moses' face.
True. And that reminds me of in heaven, we read in Revelation and other places where in heaven there's great rainbows that come from the throne of God. In the beginning, Lucifer, he stood before the throne of God and he had crystals and gemstones built within him. The light of God shone forth through those crystals. And here's a crystal here. This is a spectrum. It releases the light. You see the color of the rainbows in the light, and it shines out and reflects that glory. Well, of course, Lucifer thought, that's my glory, that's my light. God made in the high priest's breastplate, who went before the mercy seat, those gemstones, you know, and you read in the Bible that there's a stone called the Urim and the Thummim, two crystals that the high priest would hold before the veil, and the light would shine forth through the veil and would choose one of those crystals to reflect out when they were asking God a question, yes or no. Or the light would shine through the high priest's breastplate, which tribe should go up to war. And so it's pretty interesting that God in light is his glory. You can see it everywhere.
You may say, guys, I don't have a breastplate with jewels. How does this affect me? I'm so glad you asked. In Matthew 5:16, it says, let your light so shine before men that they may see your good works and glorify your Father in heaven. The point of light and the light coming through you that comes from the Father is that they may see the reflection of the Father, just like the reflection burns into this image, that the reflection of the Father comes through you, it beams from your very being and is burned onto their face, into their psyche, into their heart, that his light shines on you to them. John 1:5 says, the light shines in the darkness and the darkness has not overpowered it. No matter how dark you think life is, how strong and how powerful it is, it takes one spark of light to drive all of the darkness out of the room.
But remember, in John 3:19 through 21, he says, this is the verdict. Light has come into the world, but people love darkness instead of the light, because their deeds were evil. Everyone who does evil hates the light and will not come into the light for fear that their deeds will be exposed. But whoever lives by the truth comes into the light, so that it may be seen plainly that what they have done has been done in the sight of God.
When you live in the light, it's a freedom that's associated with that. You can walk with your head held high. You're not worried about anybody exposing anything that's hidden in the background of the darknesses of your life. Living upright before the Father, living in the light allows you to be free of the control of the enemy, of any shame, of condemnation, fear of being found out. Guys, expose the darkness. Let the light of Yeshua shine through you and set your life free, and then be a beacon to set others' lives free around you.
That's right. Don't hide your light under a bushel. Let it shine forth for the whole world to see. The city on a hill. That's who we're called to be.
It's a fire hazard. It's going to set the bushel on fire, then it's going to set your house on fire. Then you got to deal with your freaking insurance, which is no fun, because they're going to be like, did you set a bushel on fire?
Deductibles?
We don't cover that. Old Testament things, not covered in the insurance. It's just smarter next time.